You're in the right place at the right time, stretching from the distant spaceports of Batu, Tatooine, and Boz Pity, all the way to the bright center of the galaxy at Imperial Center, slamming into your hollow projector like a supercharged nanoparticle of coaxium. This is the Star Wars Unfiltered podcast. I'm John, he's Jason, and we're here to bring you your needed dose of Star Wars film, TV, book, comic, gaming, and collecting news. It is June 1st, 2022, and we just saw the latest episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi this morning, and the timing was really good on that because I've been waking up early and it was easy to crank it out. How was your last couple days, Jason? It's not been long since we recorded.
It's fine. Nothing going on. Just watching Kenobi.
Yeah, living the SoCal life.
Yeah, it's warming up, starting to warm up. How's your couple days been?
It's been good, and it is starting to warm up because I went on a walk at noon to about 2 today, and it's like 75 degrees here. But doing a 2-hour walk in 75 degrees, if the air and the UV is kind of spiking, it's like you might as well be 85, and when it's like that. So
yeah,
my thing said strong UV today, and I definitely felt it.
Yeah.
Kind of toasty. But yeah, Obi-Wan Kenobi, there was the recent news pretty much since yesterday, but it's been going around that Moses Ingram has been receiving racist messages in her DMs and elsewhere, maybe Twitter. Ewan McGregor did a supportive message of his personal accord, and it's been going around, like everyone's supporting her, and I'm very thankful for that. And just wanted to mention it, throw it out there, and basically, I think I don't even feel the need to announce it. Like, obviously, we support her and all that kind of stuff, but at the same time, like, not everybody who criticizes the show is automatically lumped in as being a racist, because there is genuine concerns about the character and maybe her acting. Maybe people have opinions, but I certainly don't want to be lumped in with like a-holes, So.
Yeah, not automatically. I mean, I have
Not
issues with the
automatic.
character, but this goes back to the whole issue with Rose from The Last Jedi and people giving Kelly Tran crap and getting too personal with the attacks, just because of their displeasure with the movie or the character. So, I mean, I personally try to avoid any personal attacks on an actor and actress.
It just, I think part of it is people are so flippant because they have their devices on them at all times, and if there's even a minor issue they have, it's so easy for them to vent and it's about them getting attention. They want to be vindicated for whatever opinion they may have, and it's easy to whip out that phone and just do it. Whereas, like we've said before, in the old days, you had to make an effort to sign up at a forum, log in, go to that dedicated site, and then give your opinion, and not everybody in the world is going to see it. It's just going to be other fans of whatever that is. So,
right. Well, and there's no repercussions too. I mean, there's hardly any repercussions.
Yeah,
like, you're not going to get punched in the face for saying crap. So
right, exactly. Yeah, it's the whole faceless thing. And so anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. We support Moses. We do have issues, minor issues with the character, nothing major, but it has nothing to do with her race. And yeah, that's that. Anyway, let's jump into part 3 of Obi-Wan Kenobi, which just aired, well, I guess at midnight last night, early this morning.
That's when I watched it.
Yeah, I think it was about 9 a.m. when I saw it this morning with my donuts and coffee. What do you think about this one?
I don't know what they're doing. I don't know that they know what they're doing. There's issues.
Let's start down
it's
the
just
laundry
bewildering,
list.
right? It's just, let's go down the laundry list. There's actually something I forgot to mention in our review of the first 2 episodes, but this is an ongoing issue for me, so this applies to episode 3 as well.
Sure.
And it's the music. They make a big deal about getting John Williams to write
do the show theme.
Well, yeah, the Obi-Wan theme,
which is only aired at the credits of each episode.
Right, which is fine. That's cool. I mean,
Natalie Holt does the show score.
Yeah.
It's kind of
The
generic.
rest of the soundtrack is really generic, which is unfortunate because there are instances, especially in episode 2, and there's instances in episode 3 as well, but when, for instance, in episode 2, when Obi-Wan catches Leia with the Force,
Hmm.
that would have
Yeah,
been a perfect time for like the Force theme.
I know.
I
I was
was
thinking the same thing.
I actually, in that moment, it felt like a gap. Like I
Yeah, yeah,
noticed the lack of it, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
very weird.
I
It's
I
just
almost
weird.
thought it doesn't make sense in a way because he did contact the Force in that moment after an internal struggle, and it would make sense for the music to be our emotional release for that.
Right. It's similar to the writing undercutting Moses's performance in
Hmm.
in the series so far, and
Yeah,
it's sort of the same thing with the soundtrack is undercutting these what should be like really emotional moments.
yeah. I
They're
in
just
this
kind of falling
episode,
flat. There's no tension. There's no release. It's just kind of
it's just there.
it's just there.
Um, I noticed that in moments with The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, but even those scores were unique enough to where there was things that cut through and sounded really cool. Um, there are moments I like parts of this score, not very much, but there's those little times, usually where just a big tone breaks through, like a big kind of like the Hans
Yeah.
Zimmer kind of thing. If a
Uh huh.
ship flies or lands or something, there had been little things like that, but by and large, this is just kind of by the numbers orchestral score that I might hear in, say, a Star Wars video game or something.
Huh, yeah.
Um,
Well, a lot of Star Wars video games, you just get the same 3 tracks recycled over and over again.
well, if we're talking 90s and 2000s
Right,
gaming,
right.
but I was
Yeah.
I was inferring maybe like an original score, like Jedi Fallen Order or
Yeah,
something.
contemporary stuff.
Yeah, or
Um,
Battlefront.
which is weird. I don't fault the composer because I feel like this is a creative choice or a budgetary choice more so than
Yeah,
a creative choice. I think
yeah,
it probably adds complexity if you're trying to weave in and out existing tracks from the movies and stuff versus just coming up with like a consistent score for the show itself. So I guess it really I just chalk it up to budget cheapness, which
yeah.
this episode is, it feels as or even more like low budget than the rest of the first 2 episodes.
And you know what? They for the planet Mapuza, they couldn't even go to Tunisia. They went to Arizona to film. No, it wasn't really Arizona, but it looks like Arizona. It's
Yeah,
got
the planet San
saguaro
Fernando.
cactus. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like Simi Valley for
Yeah,
Mandalorian.
it's
Um,
I didn't realize that Mapuzo just looks like Tython.
it does. It is kind of similar. But anyway, the automated ship lands on Mapuza. They sneak past the droids. Obi-Wan and Leia are walking along the path, and then they're picked up by an alien guy named Freck. And what's funny is I was racking my brain. I was like, what did I just watch where somebody was named Freck? Because I thought, like, was it Bad Batch? Because I was just rewatching that, and I went on Wikipedia even, and I looked up Freck, and there was like nothing except this new alien guy, and I was like, what the heck? It was something I saw this week, and I've not watched much, and then I just like put it in Google. I looked up Freck character, and it was a Scanner Darkly because I had rewatched it this week,
Hmm.
and it just so happens that Rory Cochrane's character is named Freck. Um, anyway, the alien is voiced by Zach Braff, who of course is most well known from Scrubs and Garden State with Natalie Portman.
Yeah,
And
I couldn't identify the voice as I was hearing it, but to me it sounded like, I'm like, okay, they got someone.
that's what I
There's
thought.
some
I
like
was like,
actor that
yeah.
is getting to do a Star Wars character.
Yeah, he had that comedic kind of voice, and I was like, oh yeah, I don't know who it is. It just sounds familiar. And then
You know,
so yeah.
for an instant, I almost thought it was going to be Seth Rogen, and I was going to be really upset because I am so sick of Seth Rogen. But
Yeah,
luckily, it wasn't. So
right. I think it was near the beginning of this episode. when Obi-Wan was trying to contact Qui-Gon again. I think it was paralleled in that moment that we saw, because it's sometimes cutting away to Riva on Fortress Inquisitorius on
Wait.
Nur.
You mentioned Qui-Gon. I just had the thought, what if they couldn't, like, we don't get a moment with Qui-Gon, like they couldn't get Liam back, and then they just, every time he tries to contact him, you just hear that really bad,
Anakin,
no.
Anakin,
You
no.
just hear that, like
Or
that's his, he's like, no, I'm not going to talk to you. But they just use that audio.
no. Yeah, or worse yet, they get bargain Liam Neeson from like the Phantom Menace PC game from
Right.
1999.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I wanted to mention that because while it's cutting away with, well, basically we see the third sister, aka Riva, talking to Vader in a hologram. So Vader got his armor on. We see the scene where his armor is coming on and he's coming out of the Bacta tank, and I got RoboCop vibes because it looked different
He
enough
should have
from
ate
Revenge
some
of the
baby
Sith.
food or something.
Tastes like baby food. It was actually really cool, and I feel, I mean, maybe it's because I've seen Revenge of the Sith too much over the years, but this looked cooler to me than Revenge of the Sith. Um, I don't know, it was just badass how
It
it was
was
all coming
cool.
together.
Then it was then it was undercut with him sitting, which
Exactly.
it's, I'm glad I'm glad you
Vader
noticed
sitting on
it
a
too.
stone throne on
It's
Mustafar.
really, there's something about Vader sitting that's really goofy to me,
I
because the only
know.
time we see him sit, I think, before is when he's in his chamber on the Executor, and
Yeah, and
he's
it's low
meditating though,
enough. It's
right?
low enough to where it's not weird. You don't see his legs,
Yeah, and it's,
really.
I think he's even, I think it's like implied that he's sitting cross-legged maybe, because it's like a meditation thing, you know.
Right,
He's,
and he has no cape in that scene, which once I noticed that, it became I couldn't unsee it like later in
right.
Empire.
Um,
Yeah,
but
he's sitting.
yeah, there
James
was
Earl
something.
Jones though
Yeah, and he sounds great. Um,
sounded amazing. I was because you and I we've talked about how he sounds kind of weird in Rogue One, which I can't unhear when I watch those scenes now. He sounds like he has a cold or something.
yeah,
Um,
I actually wonder if it's enhanced, you know, like they
yeah,
used
yeah,
AI like they did for Luke's voice. I wonder if
right,
they
right.
applied that. They still had James record the tracks, and then it made it easier to enhance it to match older performances. Maybe, I'm not sure,
Yeah, yeah.
but I don't care. It sounds great either way.
It sounded
So,
amazing. He sounded like he was in full command of the emotion, and it was classic Vader. Even like a "Don't fail me" kind of line.
hmm,
So, what do you think's going on with the Grand Inquisitor that we saw
I don't think
die?
he's dead. I think,
He's still gonna hold on. Mace is the traitor.
yeah. Actually, my theory is evolving to, because he sort of like brushes that aside really quick, right? Like he doesn't care. He's like, the Grand Inquisitor doesn't matter. I only care about Kenobi. She tries to say like, oh, he'll pay for the, she's implying,
Right.
it's shown that she's lying to Vader, and
Yeah.
I think he knows. I think he knows, something's up.
Right.
I think the Grand Inquisitor is alive, and he's going to show up in the last episode or whatever. I think that there's going to be something with him and Vader and her and Obi-Wan, you know,
I think that's
and
possible. I thought that too,
it could
as
be
being a
like
thing.
a sort of like in the Revenge of the Sith with Yoda fighting the Emperor and Obi-Wan fighting Anakin type thing,
Right.
where
Right.
she's fighting the Inquisitor and Obi-Wan is getting his rematch with with Vader.
He's gonna need a rematch after the kind of, I guess, was it disappointing? Part of me
Well, we'll
thinks
get
it was
to it. We'll get to it.
disappointing.
We'll get to it.
We'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
So anyway,
Anyway, that's what I think. I think that
okay,
he knows because he's like, whatever. But I think the Grand Inquisitor is still alive. That's my thought.
yeah. It's cool to see Fortress Inquisitorius. I really
Hmm.
like that location in Jedi Fallen Order.
And
I've already kind of
I'm
talked about that, but
the
yeah,
scene with her and or Riva and the fifth brother and the fourth sister was really cool. I'm liking the
yeah,
fifth brother more and more. He's really growing on me as a character. Like his whole
yeah,
everything
yeah.
going on. Like his voice is really cool. Um,
You know what's weird? If you watch the show with headphones, when he talks, they like do some kind of enhancement to his
yeah,
voice.
I've noticed
It's
that
like a
last last
It's like
night
a
I
bass.
yeah, it's kind of like what they did with Palpatine's voice in Revenge of the Sith. Um,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
noticed it when because last night I watched it without headphones, and then this morning I was kind of rewatching some of the scenes and stuff, and I
yeah,
noticed it. His voice sounds better with headphones on.
yeah, yeah. I don't know what the story is with that. It's an interesting
Now,
um
the fourth
idea.
sister had unfortunate dubbing. It looks like
Mm.
because the lip sync isn't quite there. I
I
don't know what
didn't
the
notice.
I yeah, I noticed it. It's something I can't unsee now. It's fine. Her voice is great. I don't even know if it's a different actress dubbing the voice or anything, or if it's just ADR work after the fact. But it just I don't know. It just doesn't
There's a
sync
couple
up right.
dubbing moments from the prequels and the classic trilogy that like once you notice them, you can't unsee them.
Mm-hmm.
Like one that stands out to me, I'll just mention briefly, is when Padme goes to Mustafar and she's trying to convince Anakin to come with her and everything, and then she Padme says Obi-Wan told me terrible things, and then it cuts to Anakin from a certain angle and he says what things, but he's saying something else entirely
Uh-huh.
and they just dub
That
that over.
happens. That happens so much in movies
It
and stuff.
does. It does. And there was like Jake Lloyd lines like in Watch's workshop that were like really overdubbed over. But yeah, anyway. I mean
It's
it
fine.
goes back, yeah. It
It's
goes
fine.
back to the classic
It
trilogy.
goes to
Han,
every
Luke, they all have
movie.
it.
Every movie.
Yeah.
It's this. That's
Yeah.
just
Once you
Hollywood.
notice it, it's fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just unfortunate when the lips don't match very well. Uh so what do you think of that scene with the stormtroopers getting on the transport and then it was like
That's
pretty
pretty
tense?
tense. Yeah, that was a tense scene. I liked it. It's nice seeing stormtroopers doing stuff, or
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
the classic stormtroopers more active.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
Not
I
just
liked it.
specialized. Yeah, when Obi-Wan accidentally says Leia's name, I thought, well, that was silly. Like, geez, Obi-Wan, like, did you fry your brain cells on Tatooine? But then again, he kind of did. It's been 10 years. He might have it just slipped.
Yeah, I
But
think
then
I think
also,
overall
Mhm.
they're kind of even though they haven't grayed his hair, they are sort of demonstrating how broken he is, and
Yeah,
more
that's
so than
true.
just emotionally, but just like he's not as sharp. There's
Right,
so much
right.
stress and depression and stuff that's really affecting
That's true.
his ability to function. So that's
Right.
that's how I took it, and it was a good save, um, and a good scene overall. Like his little interaction with Leia and stuff was cool. Talking
Yeah,
about her mother.
my initial thought was when the stormtrooper says Leia, I thought, wait a second, do they know that Leia's on the run with Obi-Wan? But then I thought back to what Bale said, and that should not be the case. They're just looking for Obi-Wan because the whole thing was that he kept Leia unreported, and it's
Right.
like hush hush.
Yes.
Unless maybe after Dio, maybe the Empire had reports that Obi-Wan was with a young girl, but they wouldn't know her name, presumably. So anyway, it's just kind of funny that that stormtrooper, because Luma sounds like Leia. It's just funny that the stormtrooper was so observant and so insightful. He's like, Leia,
Yeah,
why
he
did you
wasn't.
say
He
that?
was. He was firing on all cylinders, unlike most
That's right.
stormtroopers.
Maybe that was Bill Burr. Um, very observant. Uh, so yeah, that was a great scene. And dude, did we get Owen as Obi-Wan's brother recanonized?
I had that thought. Uh, I that was the first thing that popped in my mind. Is I was like, wow, could that be the case?
I know. I was wondering.
And that's I don't know. Like, but I don't think it's like a secret thing, right?
It's
Unless
not a secret. It's just in the Return of the Jedi
no,
novelization.
no, no. But I mean, like, as far as I mean, depending on how old Owen is, he would not have ever met or known Obi-Wan, like in the
Yeah,
sense that he could remember him. But it wouldn't be a secret, like his I don't know that his parents would, if they were brothers, his parents would like keep Obi-Wan a secret from him or whatever.
yeah,
Or
and it might have been something where Clee, because they're like going from the old backstory, they were half brothers, not they had like
mm-hmm.
different parent, one or
Klieg
different
had a
parent.
lot of women.
Yeah, it could be, and it might have just been something like that where there wasn't enough information, and then he just kept it from like, in other words, if Klieg never met Obi-Wan later, there would be no reason for Owen to connect those dots.
That's
That
true.
it's
I
the
would
same
take
person.
it. I would take it as a fun little thing that you can, adapt into whatever headcanon you want.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. And you know what's cool though? It's almost, and it's interesting that Obi-Wan did mention like his father's hands and things like that. It's it's almost the way he described it was almost verbatim from a scene from I think it was Jedi Apprentice number 3, The Hidden Past by Jude Watson. She actually did like there was a scene where Obi-Wan was remembering his distant past and he did actually remember that his brother's name was Owen,
Mm,
but Jude Watson never went so far as to say that like it was like the same Owen
right,
Lars we
right.
see later, but that was the name. So yeah, it made me think of that Jedi Apprentice book when that scene happened,
Mm.
and yeah, good headcanon idea. Um,
And it was nice that they kind of the way he's describing the memory of his parents is similar to the way that Leia described the memory of Padme, as
yeah,
far as
yeah,
it's just like one or two things, and then
right,
that's it. It's just a fleeting memory, even though she was an infant.
exactly.
But
I know.
I take that as to be like some force enhanced memory.
Yeah, it
Uh,
could be. I mean, I don't remember the emotions of people when I was super young, like under the age of 1, but I remember flashes of things, just images. That's it.
yeah, yeah.
So, um, when the stormtroopers got out at their stop, did you hear their dialogue?
No, I didn't. I probably
One of
missed it
them,
because I didn't have headphones on. So,
yeah, I keep subtitles on usually on my first watch through so I
hmm.
don't miss anything. But one of them says, "Oh, I'll check out that T16." So there's the goddamn T16 again.
Yeah, they're
And
obsessed.
what pisses me off is that it's BT16 in the first movie in A New Hope,
Uh,
but because somebody at Lucasfilm was the first person to mistakenly list it as T16, it has just become T16 or T17
yeah.
every time after. It's like someone fucking up on the pronunciation of a word and then that it gets repeated and spread and then like no one remembers the original.
Hmm.
So, oh well. Anyway, it's fun to always hear the T16 joke. I like it. Now, so they come up on this gate, and then it's a little more tense because it seems like Freck is selling them out,
Yeah.
and then of course we have the front
Well,
line.
actually, what's interesting with that too is like when they first get in, he sounds like overly pro imperial, and then I
Yeah,
think it's to imply like, oh, he's probably just acting pro imperial,
that's what I thought
but
could be
but
the
then he is
case.
pro imperial. I
He
thought that was
actually
kind of
is.
funny. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you like seeing the Empire's front line defense of the Arakeen Viper probe droid?
Uh, yeah. It's everywhere. Well, it was actually probing though. It wasn't.
It wasn't a security
Yeah,
force this
it was
time.
actually doing its intended function.
Yeah,
Um,
first time for everything.
and we knew it was supposed to be there because they showed them, three of them shooting out from the
That's true.
fortress. So,
That's
which was
true.
cool.
When I initially when Riva said at the fortress send out the probes and then it showed them launching and which we saw the glimpse of in one of the trailers, I was thinking, are these probe droids or is this some other kind of probe? And it was interesting to get a closer view at their probe pod because even
Hmm.
in The Empire Strikes Back, you don't get a good look at it. It just
Yeah,
zooms past and then
yeah.
that's it. But it was a cool scene. I really liked that it came up and scanned Obi-Wan and then they had the little shootout and
Obi-Wan
this
really doesn't seem to have an issue with blasters now.
I know
You
they need
notice
a
that?
line of him saying how uncivilized. Um, the scene where the stormtrooper fell on the laser gate,
That was cool.
that was so amazingly cool. I actually literally I was like, dude, like loudly, like
Yeah,
I that because it
I'm
was so
I'm
awesome.
really enjoying the dismemberment count
Oh,
in this show
I
versus
know.
because I don't think we got any dismemberment in the sequels. So it's nice to.
Did we? Did we not? No,
Well, I
we
know Ray
didn't,
didn't
did
lose
we?
any limbs.
No.
Kylo got
I
a
was trying
scar
to
that
think if
moved
there was any
around.
minor characters that did, but I can't think of any.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're right. Every trilogy needs a lost hand or an arm or
Hmm.
something. It's
Yep.
just tradition. But
Now,
no, the stormtrooper,
one
yeah,
thing I noticed about that gate,
they could
uh,
have walked around it.
yeah, what are you doing? You just
That's what
walk
I
around it. I
that's what
thought,
I said to Nicole. I was like, why are they bothering to
well,
deactivate it? They can literally walk around it.
that was one of the reasons I rewatched some of the scenes, because
Yeah.
when I first watched it, I was like, okay, everything's happening so quick that he shoots it, deactivates the gate, they
Yeah.
go through. But then I was thinking, like, oh, was it that he wanted to use the transport, and so he had to deactivate the gate to drive the transport
Oh, that
through?
would have made sense.
But he doesn't do that. They just run
They
through,
run
and then
through.
they run into Tala and the other stormtroopers, which was really weird to hear a female stormtrooper.
It's happened before. In The Force Awakens, there's one that reports to Kylo Ren saying
Yeah,
like, and she's female. It's
yeah,
happened before,
but
but yeah,
that's
it's
different.
rare.
Like that's
It's
like, okay, it's not the Empire. It's the First Order. It's different.
They're more
It's just
inclusive.
different, right? It's the First Order is way more inclusive.
Yeah, this is
But
the
it was weird
anti-alien,
for a
anti-woman empire.
classic a classic stormtrooper to be a woman. There's not really a problem with it. It's just weird in the context of the every other movie and show set in that
Definitely.
time. So it was just a surprise.
Yeah, for sure. It caught my attention too. It was like, oh, okay, they're doing that.
And she didn't
So
have
she,
it didn't no boob armor. What's up with
I was
that?
thinking the same
Should
thing.
it should it have been like a medieval fantasy video game and have
Like heavy metal. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly,
No,
exactly.
they don't need that. They shouldn't have that.
Yeah, we're joking, sort of, not really. Um, so this character is Tala, and the last name I guess is in the credits, Durith, Tala Durith, and Obi-Wan and Leia are rescued by her from more stormtroopers, and she fights for an underground resistance movement with the help of her labor droid Ned B. She and the others spirit Jedi and other Force-sensitive children away using a network called the Path, which all leads to Jabim. There was so much loaded into everything they talk about here,
Yeah.
this safe house, and I didn't realize it again because people look for these details of the things like written on the wall and stuff. But let me break down a handful of things here. First of all, the path. When she said that, I thought, is that like some reference to like the Mandalorian path, like the
Yeah.
way?
Yeah.
And then Obi-Wan says Quinlan was here. And then Leia says, "What does it say?" And then he reads the quote, "Only when your eyes are closed can you truly see." And then Leia says,
Yeah.
"See what?" And then he says, "The way."
Yeah.
I wonder, is this a Mandalorian seed? You know,
Maybe I thought about that. But
it
I
could just
guess
be
we'll
the
see.
Force. It could
Yeah.
be just a generic kind of spiritual doctrine or something. But okay, so this is big because Quinlan Voss, uh, huge character in the expanded universe during the prequel era, who Lucas was intrigued enough to he almost put him in the Order 66 death Jedi death scenes, but then his and I'm not sure if it was filmed. I don't think it was, but he was in a later version of the script that got cut, but then Obi-Wan still says Master Voss is moving his forces from whatever planet. I think Boz Pity, he says to Anakin. Um, so that his character is very like he was all over the Republic comics back in the early 2000s, and it's kind of funny. I never read any of those, but I know for a lot of fans it was a big deal. And Aayla Secura, the Twi'lek, was his apprentice
Hmm.
Padawan, and there was novels with Quinlan. He later did show up in the Clone Wars, kind of characterized differently,
Yeah.
but still retaining some of his Legends background. Um, so that's a big deal. Um, and then Jabim, uh, Paula says all the path of the network leads to Jabim. That was in the Clone Wars multimedia stuff between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. It was there was a crossover between the Republic comic and the Empire comic, where in the Republic, Obi-Wan and Anakin end up on Jabim during the Clone Wars. They get separated. They think Obi-Wan is dead. Anakin goes off with these other Padawans. It was this whole arc of like 7 or 8 issues. And then in the Empire comics, Luke crashes on Jabim and has to infiltrate. an Imperial base where he comes across Tank, his old friend from Tatooine,
Mm-hmm.
mentioned in the movie, Biggs and Tank. Um, so Jabim is, and then it was also in Empire at War, the PC game. It was in
Mm-hmm.
Forces of Corruption, the expansion. I looked on Wikipedia. There's a ton of Jabim, so that's another very big deal.
It's always nice when they can weave in things
Yeah,
from
yeah.
existing media.
Now, there's further things on the wall here that I obviously didn't know at the time. I can't read Orabesh just like looking at it. Some people, it's not that hard if you some of the inscriptions look like the Greek alphabet, which is kind of similar to ours, but people have decoded some of the things on the wall. Here's the interesting stuff. One of the names on the wall is Jen Altus, who was mentioned in Children of the Jedi, who was the master of Callista back in the day during the Clone Wars and such.
Yeah.
Uh,
So then,
Valen,
so wait, so
yeah,
then that means that the JJ's original intention at the end of the Force Awakens was for that what looks like kind of a grave marker wasn't going to be Mara Jade, it was going to be Callista. That's
yeah, I
clearly
know,
what that
right?
means.
Yeah, yeah. Two other big names. Valen Horn. That's Corin's father, also known as Hal. But
Oh,
Valen was his
that
real name.
did show up on there.
That did show up on there.
Interesting.
Another big one. Do you remember Roganda Ismarin
Yes.
from Children of the Jedi? That was Palpatine's concubine,
Yeah.
who was actually one of his hands. Later, it was mentioned in one of the reference books. I think the Essential Chronology listed her as a hand. And it's just there's so much loaded, even though if those are just Easter eggs, it's so loaded with like like potential.
Yeah.
Just the fact that they're listed.
Yeah,
So
recanonizing stuff.
yeah, left and right.
Might
So
not
that,
be the
yeah,
characters we really want to be recanonized, or they're not on the top of our lists,
Roganda Ismarin.
but
Yeah,
I'll take
yeah.
what I can get.
The interesting thing about Roganda is her son that she had that was supposed to be the son of Palpatine was Irek
Mm-hmm.
Ismarin, who uses the Force to manipulate droids in
Yeah.
Children of the Jedi. If Irek is later canonized also, or even by association with Roganda, that means that like I don't know, Ray would have a great uncle, or no, just uncle. He'd be Uncle Irek.
There you
There's
go. Old Uncle Iric and his droids.
yeah. Anyway, so that there's a lot of stuff there. I'm sure that'll really come to fruition with where things go later. Um, what else did you think about this scene in general? Was it
Um, well, I did notice Tala name drop Obi-Wan right in front of Leia.
right?
I mean, he kind of told her to go get ready on the other side of the small, 10 by 15 room or whatever it
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
But she said his name right in front of her.
right.
It's weird. I don't know. She probably
Yeah.
wasn't paying attention, I guess.
You never know. It's hard to say. Is she observant or is she just a kid? Um,
Well, she's shown to be super clever and observant, so,
right,
but I
right.
don't know.
So,
It's whatever. It's kind of
yeah,
sloppy if it doesn't go anywhere. I mean, to be honest, I thought the whole Leia thing was going to be over, but apparently this is going to be the whole series.
they're gonna
I
stretch it.
I thought it was going to
Yeah,
just put Obi-Wan in motion, not be the
yeah.
whole show, but that's
I
fine. We'll see where it
suspect
goes.
I suspect that if not the next episode, the last two, we're going to see more of young Luke. I think we're going to actually have scenes like the
I
ones with
think we
Leia.
have to because Bonnie Peace was
Hmm.
she's listed. She is
Yeah,
Baru, but we haven't
yeah,
seen her. So, and they wouldn't
yeah,
bring her back unless she has scenes, and you
yeah.
know, she would be there if Luke's around. So,
Right, right.
I am anticipating that.
Yeah.
Um, uh, the only other thing I noticed, it wasn't particular to the scene in the safe house, but when they're entering the town or whatever,
Hmm.
and there's like stormtroopers, two stormtroopers marching through, and they're like out of the way to that old lady or whatever.
Right.
But like they she doesn't really move and they don't really move. Like they just kind of both move out of the way. Like
I
I
think
thought
it
it.
was kind of one of those things in ADR where they're like, we could punch the scene up a
Yes,
little bit,
yeah,
even
I think
though it
so.
wasn't filmed with that intention.
Yeah, no, totally. That's totally how I take it, because it would have been cool if they were just like out of the way and like, shoulder checked her or whatever, and then or fruit or something, or bananas fly
Right,
out or whatever.
right,
I don't know. It's just funny. It's funny what
right.
they insert after the fact.
Yeah, so that's basically the end of my notes because the last segment of this episode is just one big thing, and I'll let you. What are your thoughts on the end of this episode? There's a lot of stuff.
Vader's entrance is really cool. He's obviously trying to draw Obi-Wan out. I never took Vader as being super like sadistic and
Yeah,
cruel, so it was kind of weird to see him um, kill innocents basically. I
you
mean,
know what? Yeah,
he's evil. He's a Sith, but he never came off. His motivations never came off that way either. It was all about order and everything.
yeah.
So for him to do that was kind of weird, but at the same time, he's trying to draw Obi-Wan out. So
Hmm.
and build the tension. So that was cool. I did notice that it seems like they got the eye goggles right. They have
Oh,
that
I didn't
reddish.
notice. Are the red ones
Yeah,
from
they're the
A
red
New Hope?
tint. So they got that right, which was cool.
I still
Because
think the chin of the armor is kind of weird.
it
It's
does.
there's some.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I need to go and look, but I think it's one of those things where it probably matches. It's kind of the same thing with Rogue One, right? Like he kind of looked
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
weird, but it's because I think he
You know
looks.
what's funny though?
Hmm,
You know what's interesting, and I think this came probably from the red lenses in A New Hope, and then the changes in Empire and Jedi. The of all the things, I think the only source that said anything in regards to Vader's armor changing was, strangely enough, the Star Wars Technical Journal. They said there was some line in there saying that over the years, Vader made subtle modifications to his armor,
mm-hmm.
and
It makes
so
sense.
yeah, yeah, it does make sense. That's so Technical Journal. Thank you. You're still canon.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, when he walks, though, the belt doesn't move very much,
mhm. I'm sure
but
some of
he
this is the
does.
strangeness of having Hayden, who's a smaller guy,
Yeah,
compared to
yeah,
David Prowse
yeah.
doing.
They just
I
don't have
mean,
a huge guy in there.
yeah, we saw this issue even just with the Frankenstein breakout off of the table in Revenge of the Sith. There's a strange, you can tell it's a smaller guy. Like Hayden's head is kind of in the neck of
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
and the
Which
helmet's
could
like
could be
above.
why the chin of the suit
He's
is
got little eye holes.
it's like a Godzilla suit. It's like,
Yeah,
why does Godzilla have a long neck? It's like because that's
right,
some guy's
right.
head. Um, but no, overall it's good. And
I like how when Vader first shows up, Obi-Wan pulls out his lightsaber and then runs away. That was almost unintentionally funny because
yeah,
we expect him to turn it on like in A New Hope or anything, and then
yeah,
he
this
runs. It was a whole cat and mouse thing. Like, let's go off and run here, duel a little. Let's run over here, duel a little.
yeah, it's
It
it's funny because the whole backdrop of like the mining operation. Um,
it looked like it was down the street in my town at the local
yeah,
sand
this
fucking,
this goes back to there's been a lot of
the
sh-
quarry.
there's been a lot of like articles and interviews where people, especially Ewan, will talk about the difficulty with the prequels and how everything was CG and the backdrops were CG, and it made stuff difficult. And there's kind of like
Yeah.
sort of shade thrown at the prequels and
Yeah.
George for having everything be
Overly digital.
overly digital. But then the alternative is what, that we're at a generic quarry in
I
SoCal.
know.
Like it doesn't
Yeah,
seem very fantastical. They
there
have
there
like,
didn't seem to be enough Star Wars technology around the quarry. It looked like it could have just been filmed literally down the street in a,
well, they should have
part
just
of
even
town.
just changed the color of the gravel that was piled up everywhere
Right,
versus,
right.
and then they have that little box of like the flammable rocks or whatever. But
That was really cool. You know what? That whole scene,
well,
it
we'll,
was
we'll get to
interesting.
that scene. I have issues with that scene, but
Go for it. Go
the
for it. Keep
no,
going.
not yet. Um, it just it's just weird because I almost prefer they would do a digital backdrop to make it more fantastical and like
Mm-hmm.
a
Like
very
Mustafar.
foreign, yeah, exactly, like a really foreign environment.
Yeah.
Um, I thought the cat and mouse stuff was pretty cool. I'm kind of, I don't know, I kind of did dig the fact that they're able to use like practical lightsabers to get a lighting effect on
I never thought of
the
that until
actors,
right now, but you're
but
right.
it's
That is kind of cool.
but it's almost getting distracting because it's not consistent with the movies, like the original
Yeah, the
movies.
when it does reflect on them, it looks like the lightsaber light you buy from a toy lightsaber. Kind of.
Well,
Obviously, it's
it's
better,
not
but
that, it's just the consistency. You know, if the movies
yeah,
had that,
yeah.
then because they look good. I mean,
They looked
looked
amazing in the sequel trilogy. Like for example, like when they do it, because that was pretty much mirroring the
yeah.
prequels. You know.
Yeah, I guess sometimes I'm comparing in my head I'm comparing what something looks like to the OT versus the PT.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
PT did utilize that. I don't know if it was more or less though. I don't know. There's something about it that maybe it's because it's Vader in the armor. Because I liked it
It,
when Ahsoka was fighting that one Imperial officer or whatever on that planet in Mandalorian. Her lightsabers like had that effect on her and stuff. They're white
mhm.
lightsabers.
Yeah,
So I don't know. Maybe that's just a weird thing in my head. Because
yeah,
the
yeah.
prequels did have that and they used it to great effect, especially in Attack of the Clones with in the scene, the duel with Anakin and Dooku. But
Hmm.
the cat and mouse was fine. I really wasn't expecting Episode 3 to have a duel,
I was not either. I thought we'd see Vader because of the
and
tease at the end of the last one, but I just was not expecting this to ramp up and spit it out almost halfway through this, with the
yeah, and
last
that's what
third.
makes me think that there's going to be something with the Grand Inquisitor later to up the ante or whatever. But the duel itself was okay, I guess.
That's how I feel like it was good. A lowercase g. It was
It
good.
I think it was effective at maybe sort of the same thing with showing how dull Obi-Wan is. They kind of
That was what I was gonna say. So
established that more.
when Vader tortures him with the fire and trying to get revenge with how he made Vader, I was thinking, is this an explanation for Obi-Wan kind of being more cautious and slow and measured in A New Hope?
Yeah.
Or is he literally now recovering from injuries 10 years prior, or 9 years prior? So,
Yeah. The the problem with the duel then becomes so there's two duels before A New
yeah,
Hope.
yeah, yep.
It's like how many times is going to happen? It's almost like they got to amend the line with Vader in A New Hope saying, "I sense something, a presence I've not felt since Episode 3 of Obi Wan."
Yeah, I
You
know.
know, I haven't felt them
Yeah,
since
see, if
2 weeks ago.
George Lucas had actually answered the end of that trailing off with like a location, we'd have none of this right now.
Mustafar. Yeah. Oh, imagine if he had said Mustafar before. He inserted it in one of the Blu-rays or something, kind of
Right,
like the
right.
No.
Yep,
Then Disney wouldn't have anywhere to go with it. But
exactly.
so that was kind of weird. Now the thing with the fire was a cool scene, but it ends up coming off kind of like the laser gate, where it's really cool. He ignites the rocks, the flammable
Yeah,
rocks, and then he's dragging Obi-Wan through it to torture him, just like he was tortured on Mustafar. Um, but then he pushes him away and blows the fire out with the Force. Okay, which is cool. He's like, oh man, he's gonna. This is only the beginning. Like he's gonna torture Obi-Wan, probably start hacking his limbs off and
yeah,
stuff. But then
right.
Tala takes the shot of the stormtrooper.
I thought she was gonna make the bolt, or Vader was gonna make the bolt float like Kylo Ren when
Oh
Poe
Jesus
shot.
Christ! Just that shouldn't be a thing. Um,
I thought it was
actually,
cool when I first saw it.
see, why did
I still think it's
why did
cool.
the stormtrooper go to collect them? Okay, Vader should have
That yeah,
Vader should
there's
have got him with the Force, and then Tala should have taken the shot at Vader, and then Vader could have deflected it with his lightsaber or his hand, just like in Empire Strikes Back.
yep,
That would have been cooler, and then it would have shown
yep.
he's actually distracted because when the fire gets reignited, all of a sudden
Ned
it's
B
you can't. Well,
grabs Obi-Wan, I
yeah,
think.
but all of a sudden, what did Vader run out of mana or something?
I
Like
know, I know.
he can't do anything about it. Like they can't walk
Yeah,
around the fire. They can't. He could just walk
right.
through the fire with his damn suit. Probably
I know. Maybe his cape would burn, but not much else.
he could have blown out the fire with the Force again. He could have grabbed Obi-Wan with the Force. I don't know. It's just weird. It's inconsistent.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
another contrivance. It's weird. It's a
I'm
cool scene that's undercut with this sort of technical uh technical issue.
the thing is, without dragging this out, you can. There's so many things like this, even in the classic trilogy, that if you overthink them, this is the path that
Oh
just
yeah, yeah,
leads
yeah.
down into nothingness.
I just take it as Vader was like, oh yeah, you get away now, but I'm gonna get you. Like you're not getting off this
Right.
planet type thing,
I
right?
I had the feeling that he was kind of toying with Obi-Wan anyway,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, for sure, he wouldn't want him to get away entirely. Um, I'll just mention for the sake of the synopsis that Leia was running through the tunnel and then Riva
Oh
got
yeah,
the
Riva in the safe house. You know, she finds the safe house, and
yeah,
that kind of it doesn't really go one way or the other, but sort of her reaction to seeing the
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 Jedi,
Jedi symbol and
the
all these
sacred
markings.
text. Yeah,
um, it it like I said, it doesn't inform anything one way or the other, but to me it came off as like there's some internal thing
there's a
going on.
remembrance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's an internal
yeah,
thing going on. There's something that we're
there
not being
is.
told as the audience, which might point to a double cross or whatever with
Yeah,
Vader and stuff.
I actually was mentioning to Nicole as we watched it. I was like, well, because I pointed out to her, I said that's the Jedi symbol from the temple or back in the day, and I said I'm sure though it's obviously it's probably because she was a Padawan, but I said either way, even if she wasn't, I'm sure that Inquisitors studied Jedi archive history as part of their Inquisitor training. They have to know
Mm-hmm.
these things to track down Jedi. So
Yeah,
either way, but it was cool. You're right though. There was a inference of something there.
something. They don't say what, but there's something. So,
Yeah.
um, and I think that's just about it for my notes.
Yeah, I mine too. The
Now,
last
oh,
thing was just
you
kind
know
of the
what?
duel.
There was something. So usually, so far we've there's been issues with like, well, if these characters said these things in the original trilogy or the prequels or whatever, then this starts to get into contradiction territory in this
Hmm.
show. But I wanted to point out that there's something that actually reinforces something in the original trilogy,
Yeah.
and that's Obi-Wan. You know, he tells Luke that Vader was more machine than man.
Yeah.
But the as far as what we see in the movies, he wouldn't know that. When he
That's
left
very true.
when he left Anakin on Mustafar, he thought it was a death sentence. He thought he was dead.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
maybe he knew through HoloNet News or something that Vader was
Yes.
around and stuff, and
I
he
think all of
inferred.
us collectively figured it was something along those lines. Like, because Obi-Wan, according to like even like Night Lily from Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina, Feltapern sees Obi-Wan in Mos Eisley at the beginning of that story.
Hmm.
So we know that Obi-Wan, even if he's out in his hut, he would travel to Mos Eisley to get food and supplies.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I always was under the impression when he goes to Mos Eisley or whatever, he might just scan a galactic holonet database just to skim over, do some doom scrolling on his holonet
yeah,
receiver.
yeah, yeah. He would infer it that way, but based on him
Right,
knowing that Anakin had
right.
become Darth Vader, which actually it would have been completely a non-issue if he just didn't know that Anakin's Sith name was Darth Vader, right?
Yeah,
Like if
yeah,
he didn't know that, then it would none of it would be an issue. And I wouldn't even say
yeah.
it was an issue, but I will say that this show is, reinforcing the fact that he
Yeah,
knew that he was
I
a
like that.
cyborg.
I actually do like that. And when
So
I
that's a
knew this was
positive. That's a win.
Oh yeah. Well, what I was gonna say is, whenever there's a new Star Wars movie or series, I always start my marathon again with the new thing being in the place in the timeline, and then I pick up and watch the rest where it continues.
Hmm.
And it's really cool to just see things from a new light, just like always, but to see it like sequentially over the course of say a week or something.
Hmm.
And so I'm gonna watch A New Hope when the series ends, and the whole trilogy, and I'll see how it informs how I see things, because that's something, because of the larger continuity of Star Wars being interconnected. When I first started getting into Star Wars, I think it was just from playing TIE Fighter and X-Wing, I saw the space battles differently in the movie after playing those games.
Hmm.
And then I that's when I had the kind of thing about Star Wars where I'm like, wow, as you experience more of that universe, your perception changes and stuff. And I always liked that. That was always fun. So this will be another example of the series, giving us little uplifts here and there. And like you said, it is a positive. And yeah, we're poo-pooing some things here, saying, "Oh, this is kind of so-so," or that's whatever. I'm still having a fucking amazing ride of a time. Like I'm not, like I can criticize little things here and there, but I'm still like, dude, I'm watching Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it's a whole new story, and there's probe droids and stormtroopers. Like I see the positive for sure.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking at some stills from the show and the duel and stuff, and I think it is just a nitpick that I'm doing with the whole lightsaber effect thing, with it being a practical light on
yeah,
set. So I don't.
it
I would
it
retract my criticism of that.
it's good in some ways and less good in others. And I mean, that even goes back to the original trilogy, how they were animated. In some shots, it looks great, and in others, it doesn't.
Yeah,
Even in A
that's
New
true.
Hope, and
That's
we
true.
know that for sure, especially with A New Hope,
Oh
because they
man,
were
when Obi-Wan like kind of his lightsaber's like pointed at the camera and it
when
almost
it's
disappears.
and it's funny whenever that shot, like when he's batting Vader away, and it does that, it's almost like Ben Burt changed the sound to where it almost sounded like it was sparking more, almost like as a kid when I saw that, I was under the impression that Obi-Wan's saber was like fizzling out.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until later I thought, well, no, it's just the way it's pointed. But
Yeah, it's just
like,
an issue with the effect or whatever.
right. But it's if you listen to the sound though, it's almost like Ben Burt, maybe he took advantage of that shot and made like he used his own head headcanon to like be like, it's different right here. So I don't know. But
Um, I'd say so. We're halfway through the series.
halfway through.
I would say my only major complaints so far, because I'm still reserving, as I've said, I'm reserving a lot of
Yeah.
judgment as far as Leia's role in the story and her relationship with Obi-Wan, and then Riva and stuff. So I'm reserving all that still. But my major complaint is it it just it feels like a TV show. It
Yeah,
does not feel
it
very
does.
cinematic. It does not feel high budget. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
the music is lacking, and it all just boils down to Disney cutting costs. I feel like now they might have, like I've said before, probably have a great reason for that. They got COVID going on for the last few years, makes things
Hmm.
very difficult. They've been bleeding money, having to close Disneyland for however long and other
Yeah,
parks. So, but still, that's my biggest complaint is the
absolutely. And
production value is lacking.
I do completely agree. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, just to coin a overused phrase. And I will take it and I will love it and take my money, Disney. Just take it. So,
Yeah, I think the thing I'm more forgiving for if Mandalorian feels a little cheap sometimes,
mhm.
if Book of Boba Fett feels a little cheap sometimes. Uh, I don't know how Andor is gonna go. The teaser from that makes it seem like it has a higher budget than Obi
It
Wan, but
does.
I'm not
It
sure.
does. Yeah.
So, but Mando, Boba Fett, Andor, these are all you know B, C tier
Yes.
characters, right?
Yeah.
D tier. as far as popularity and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Obi-Wan and Vader are S tier. These are
Yep.
these are top tier characters. This show
They
should get the
deserve the
budget.
best.
Yeah, if you're
I
gonna
know.
do it, this was supposed to be a movie
Yeah. Yeah.
originally until
Yeah.
The Last Jedi. So I don't know.
It could
It's
just
just
be they're
weird.
playing it safe, not to rock the boat and do anything stylistically crazy or chancy. Um, but that's just a speculation because I still feel like they could. Um,
It's weird though. Like I
because
watched the first season of Picard. Picard didn't feel like a TV show. Stuff
no,
on
also
stuff filmed
in
by Netflix.
Rogue One and Solo, and even the sequel trilogy for that matter. There's a lot of scenes where the editing is tight, the score is great, the special effects
Oh
are
yeah,
great.
it's
I
definitely not
mean,
a
we could
budget issue with
criticize,
those. Those are big
yeah,
Hollywood productions though. That makes sense. And
but that's what I'm
pre-COVID and
saying.
everything.
This deserved to look like a Hollywood
It
production
did.
as
Yeah.
a limited series.
Yeah.
It deserved it.
If you're going to
Yeah,
get Ewan and Hayden back,
yeah,
um, you gotta you gotta spend the dollars, right?
yep,
You
yeah,
need to do it justice is the thing,
yeah.
and they're just it's the budget's just not doing it justice. I feel like so,
No,
but whatever. You're right.
but
It's whatever.
yeah,
We'll
just to
eat it
bring
up.
it back, just to bring it back to a positive note. This is all, to me, this is all like so fantastical and it's such a bonus. Like I still think about back in the 90s when all we had was Bantam novels, the original trilogy, and a pixelated X-Wing game or Dark Forces. And I always
And
thought
that board game with the video cassette that
yeah,
was
which I had,
as
I
much
still
as we
have.
got of Vader in the
That was
90s.
the that was all we got as far as new Vader footage.
Oh, and the Energizer commercial.
And that too. I mean,
Right.
there's a few other things here and there.
But even the
But
Energizer commercial felt more cinematic.
oh sure, they redid some shots. But the
Anyway.
point I'm making is uh by and large, what we mostly had for further adventures was paperback books and some LucasArts games.
Yeah.
The fact that we are getting these further adventures as extended series on Disney Plus and featuring actors we really love that we never thought would come back. And whether it's Tamira or Hayden or whoever, it's just, I'm just saying, like, hey, this, if my 15-year-old self knew in the future I was watching this, I'd shit a brick. So that's the way I look at it. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of all I have to say. I agree with all your nitpicks and everything. You're not wrong.
You sound like Kevin Bacon in Animal House. Thank you, sir.
I
May I have
haven't
another?
I haven't seen that in
Oh,
years.
he's getting hazed and he's getting his ass smacked with a big paddle.
Oh, okay. Um, that's basically it. Disney, whip me again. Give me more. I like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Please, sir, may I
So,
have another?
yes. Any other thoughts?
No, actually, one last thing, and we don't have to dwell on it or anything. It was just something I had read online as far as someone's thoughts on what they would have preferred, uh, what they would have preferred the interactions between Obi-Wan and Vader to be in the series versus a literal duel, which I thought would have been really cool and tied into the sequels really well and the way things work in the sequels. Is for Obi-Wan to be meditating and Vader to be meditating, and them showing it throughout the series, and them having these interactions, um, sort of like Kylo and Rey having
Right,
through the
right,
Force,
right.
and them dueling and talking and like interacting through that, and neither one really knowing that they're actually interacting with the other person, right? They think
Right.
it's just
Like
like a
so it's
force.
filmed in a certain way to keep it ambiguous on
Yeah,
their
like they
either
think they're
side.
just having like a force vision or something, or
That would
like
be a great
memories.
idea.
And you could do
That would be
things like
great.
you could have Anakin just be normal. You could have
Yeah,
Anakin look like he did at, on Mustafar and have him all burned up, and
right.
he could have the helmet off. You could do all sorts of cool stuff with the look of either one, but it was all sort of on the
Yeah,
force
through the
plane
force.
through the force.
I
So then
you know,
you get you have your cake and you eat it too, right? You're maintaining
yeah,
absolute continuity with the lines
right.
from the movies, but then you're also getting those fan service duels and stuff. I thought that would have been an interesting way to do it,
Yeah,
but it's fine. This is something I read online. I thought it was a really cool
yeah.
theory as a preference on how it should have been.
Yeah, every
So
so often there's some fan theories and ideas like that that are brilliant, and it's just kind of a shame that not everything can be official and get out there.
well, it's a shame that those I mean, you, me, other fans that like are so invested in Star Wars aren't in those positions versus someone in Hollywood that's, you know, a writer in Hollywood or something that's like, yeah, I like
Just
Star
brought
Wars.
on.
You
Yeah.
know, I like it. This is a good, you know, this is a good
They
step on
might
my
even
career
love it, but
path.
they don't love it like we love it.
Right. Yeah. Like this is a good step on my career path, you know,
Exactly.
versus like this is my life, you know.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, for sure.
but
I
that's
was
it.
actually under the impression I thought we might get flashbacks during the Clone Wars with Hayden and Ewan with some de-aging, but we might still get something like that possibly for the Ahsoka series if it flashes back to her and Anakin at least,
Yeah.
or Obi-Wan.
Well,
So you never know.
we did have creepy Vision Anakin in the desert. So
Yeah,
that was kind of,
that was a whole other thing too. Yeah.
yeah.
It's funny how they're
Obi-Wan's
like
losing his
haunting each other.
marbles.
Yeah, no kidding. Um, yeah, I think I summed everything up. So, all right, that was episode 3 of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and next week we'll be covering episode 4, not to be confused with A New Hope. Um, anyway, on that note, make sure everybody check out the YouTube channel where these episodes will be posted. Check us out on Facebook, Star Wars Unfiltered, and remember, if you have any questions or comments, Star Wars Unfiltered at yahoo.com, and remember to check out our Instagram as well. Hope everyone has a great and safe week. And remember, always have fun with Star Wars. It's just for fun. It's just a movie. It's just a TV series. Don't take it too seriously. May the Force be with you.
Good night.